Liverpool have secured their 20th English top flight title. Arne Slot's getting all the flowers that he deserves. He's done an incredible job, obviously, succeeding Jurgen Klopp in the Premier League at Liverpool, picked up a Premier League title in his very first season. But it's led people to ask a question about his legacy in England so far after just one season. Has he done a better job than Mikel Arteta, who's been at Arsenal since, 2019? Harry, I'm going to come to you first as the Arsenal fan. I think I know your answer. Has Arne Slot already surpassed what Mikel Arteta has done at Arsenal?
I know I'm going to get a lot of stick for this, so I'm going to put my tin hat on nice and early because, look, there's no doubt that Arne Slot's done great since coming in, right? But the way I look at it is that he's picked up a team that weren't that far off. This is a team that were really competitive with Manchester City for a number of years. Arsenal came in and kind of spoilt the party over the last couple of years. But that, for me, backs up my argument about Mikel Arteta. The fact that they were able to kind of breach that pair that everybody looked at and said were miles and leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else. So I rate what Arne Slot's done. But I think the beauty in his job so far has been that he's come in and recognised that actually Liverpool have the components already. You saw that they did next to nothing in the transfer market. And he's just made a few tweaks and adjustments, given a new message, given them a new impetus. And that's been enough to fuel up the machine and get them going again. Whereas Mikel Arteta, for me, picked Arsenal up off of the floor. This was an Arsenal team that was finishing 8th in the Premier League. An Arsenal team that had been out of the Champions League for years. And he's brought them back to this level where we're all sitting here now, having seen Liverpool win the Premier League title, and we're all going, Arsenal should have won it. We're seeing them in the Champions League semi-final, having lost the first leg against arguably the informed team in European football right now, and we're all going, why have they lost that game? They've let themselves down. That in itself tells you how far Arsenal have come. So yes, Arne Slot's done great, but I think Arteta's been on a longer, more painful journey. I think for Arne Slot, he's had the components there. Still deserves immense credit for being able to mould it into something successful again. But I'm struggling to say that Arne Slot has done a better job than Mikel Arteta.
You agree?
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I really do agree with Harry to an extent, but you've got to look at the job Arne Slot has done. I know, as you said, it's really easy to inherit the team that Jurgen Klopp left, but to inherit a championship winning team, we've seen it in the Premier League before, and we've seen David Moyes do it, and it didn't work out. I know it's easier said than done. You had, 4 world-class players with that Liverpool team, if you want to include Trent Alexander-Arnold, Mo Salah, Van Dijk and Alisson. But it's not easy to come in, get the team by the scruff of their neck and say, this is how we're going to play. It's going to be a bit different. There might not be that many changes, but you're going to play to my style of football. And credit to Arne Slot, we all predicted that Liverpool were going to drop off.
100%.
We all did. And so even though he's won a Premier League title in his first season, and we've seen many other managers do it before, so it's not that great of a feat. And I'm a United fan, so I'm going to just throw that in there as well. But I've got to give Arne Slot credit. I think I like to go back to when Patrice Evra said about when David Moyes came in and he was spoken to the players and he said, this is how I've done it at Everton, so this is how we're going to do it. Arne Slot could have done the same thing. And I'm sorry, this is no disrespect to the Eredivisie, but the Eredivisie is not winning the Premier League. We saw Ten Hag win multiple, and we didn't see Ten Hag win the Premier League. So for Arne Slot to come in to a massive club like Liverpool, do what he's done in the first season, and really and truly, they've only lost 2 games. It was kind of unfortunate that they lost to PSG and penalties, because if PSG weren't here right now, we probably could be talking about a Liverpool-Arsenal semi-final. So there's been fine margins, but I've got to give credit to Arne Slot. Is it a better job than Mikel Arteta, though? Mikel Arteta has more of a rap sheet and has the longevity. But right now, if we're putting trophies on the table, it's a COVID FA Cup versus a Premier League. I'd rather have the
Premier League, though.
But,
it is.
Well, no, but Arne Slot didn't win that COVID Premier League. I'm talking about Arne Slot's Premier League now. So Arne Slot's Premier League now to a COVID FA Cup. Guess I'm going with Arne Slot.
I hear what you're saying. I want to pick up on a point in terms of we've seen managers come in and do it before, and I've laboured on this point. In Wenger's first full season in the Premier League, he won it. In Jose's first full season in the Premier League, he won it. Same as Ancelotti, same as Pellegrini, same as Ranieri to an extent. I know he'd been in Chelsea before, but in his first season at Leicester, he won it. And Conte won it in his first season in the Premier League as well. Apart from Wenger and Jose, All of those other managers were sacked by the end of their second season. So let's go and see if Arne Slot can go and build on this, because it's all well and good coming and doing it in your first season, but the greats, the true greats, go and do it again and again and again. And for Arne Slot, he's riding the crest of a wave, right? There was an impetus from Liverpool. When you heard the players talk, we want to win the Premier League over the Champions League because we didn't get to do it in front of fans. And they did that. And we saw the scenes at Anfield, we saw the scenes in front of the Kop, and it was amazing. But the mark of a true great is when people have got game tape on you, can you go and do it again? And for Arteta and Arsenal, granted they haven't won the major trophies, they've won an FA Cup, but we've had game tape on Arsenal and they continue to be a very, very good team. Like you mentioned, people are questioning why didn't you beat PSG in the first leg? PSG, who you said are one of the best teams in Europe. That's a mark of how good Arsenal are. They were a game removed from Arsenal beating Real Madrid in the Bernabeu, beating Real Madrid 5-1 on aggregate in the Champions League, when Real Madrid were the defending Champions League holders, and also add the Kylian Mbappe. And so I do understand if you're putting the trophies on the table, Arne Slot's winning, but sometimes football's not all about trophies. I think sometimes it's about how you build a club, how you build a culture, and how you can move the club forward. And I think that Arteta has moved Arsenal forward more than Arne Slot, who has admitted himself that he didn't upset the apple cart. Jurgen Klopp built an incredible thing there, and he just came in and enforced a slightly different message.
When I say about the COVID Premier League that Liverpool won, the point I'm trying to make is that if you look back over the last 5 years, let's say, Liverpool were much closer to where they are today than Arsenal were to where they are today. Yeah. So Arsenal have taken a bigger step, in my opinion, under Mikel Arteta. But that shouldn't diminish Arne Slot's achievements, right? He has come in, and as you say, he's not upset the apple cart. For me, that shows that he's clever and it isn't all about ego. Because a lot of managers would have come in and gone, I need to bring 2 or 3 of my players in. We need to do something differently because I need to mark the start of my era here. And he's been smart enough and humble enough to go, that's not what's needed here. He's come in, he's assessed everything, he's looked at the players, he's looked at it, he's gone, I've got Mo Salah, I've got Virgil van Dijk, I've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, I've got Alisson, and the list goes on. I don't need to reinvent the wheel here. All I need to do is make a few adjustments. And towards the end of Jurgen Klopp's era, I think it was fair to say that the messaging was lost a little bit. Mm-hmm. And that can happen when someone's at a club for a long time and the messaging's the same over and over again. You can get to a point where it just doesn't go in anymore. And I genuinely think that's what Arne Slot's done. So I don't think it's been this massive overhaul where he deserves this amazing praise. I think he deserves praise, though, because he went in and he recognised what the problem was and he solved it. But for me, Arteta picked Arsenal up off the ground. And to put Arsenal in a position where, as I keep saying, we are now demanding that they win the Premier League. We're demanding that they make the Champions League final. That in itself says what he's had to do. And he's had more difficult circumstances, I think, to work in.
Harry mentioned the messaging being lost, right? Yeah. But the messaging was lost under Jurgen Klopp off the back of winning the Premier League, off the back of winning the Champions League and getting to 2 other finals. Arteta so far in the 6-year tenure at Arsenal has only won the FA Cup. Is there a risk that if Arsenal don't win the Premier League or the Champions League next season, the messaging could start to be lost in an Arsenal generation that are now hungry and willing to win trophies?
Well, this is the thing. You kind of saw it. I don't want to spread lies, but you kind of saw it at the start of this season. This should have been the season for Arsenal fans. I think you were right. Arteta took Arsenal off the floor, but that was... Arsenal won the floor in 2019. We're in 2025, and that was 6 years ago. It's now been, this is the first season where we kind of, or maybe let's say second, we've expected Arsenal. The first season when they finished second, we're like, oh wow, that was crazy. But Arsenal were a good team. Next thing, we're like, can Arsenal make that next step? No, it didn't happen. Again, can Arsenal make that next step? If we do this again for the next season, there's all well and good picking up someone from the floor, but the next big step, and maybe even a bigger step, is taking them from contending to winning. And that's what Arne Slot done in one season at the end of the day. So whether Mikel Arteta now can make that next big step of taking Arsenal from contenders to winners, then by all means you can say he's done a better job than Arne Slot. But right now, I think that might be a bigger step from taking someone from the floor to contending. I think contending to title winners ask Liverpool. They've only won 2 in the last how many years, and they've been contenders way longer than Arsenal.
I'm not sure about that, because I think for me, that take last season, for example, right, where Arsenal missed out by, a couple of points. They won 16 of their last 18 games in the Premier League. And but for some unfortunate circumstances, they would have won the Premier League, right? Do you then define Arteta's job based on that one game where he dropped points at home in the second half of the season? And this is the point I'm trying to make. He's done everything right. He's got them into the right frame of mind. He's got them into the right mode. He's got the system that's working. He's got players performing. And so the idea that you say he hasn't progressed, I'm not saying you're saying that, but the idea that people suggest that he hasn't progressed anymore because they missed out on the title last season, no, that was still a big step forward from the season before. So this, for me, is the only season where you look at it and you go, there's been a slight regression.
Yeah.
But if they go and win the Champions League, can you actually say
Well,
that?
that's what I'm going to say, Harry. In the midst of Liverpool being where Arsenal have been for the last couple of seasons, where it was Liverpool and Man City going for the title and accumulating an incredible amount of points, what Liverpool also did at the same time, in 2019, when it went to the last game of the season, they got 97 points, they won the Champions League. In 2022, when it went to the final game of the season, Liverpool also won the FA Cup and the League Cup. Is there not an argument that Arteta's done a great job, but now let's start putting silverware on the table? It doesn't maybe have to be the Champions League. Maybe it doesn't have to be the Premier League, but a League Cup or a FA Cup at least to just instill this mentality of winning.
But that also backs up my point that Liverpool weren't as far away from where they are today. Because in that period of time, even though they weren't winning the league in the last few years because Manchester City was so dominant, they were winning trophies.
Yeah.
So again, that backs up the point that the journey under Arne Slot, I'm not saying it's not been impressive, not trying to take it away from him, but he didn't pick up a group that hadn't won before. This was a group of winners.
But I'm asking
He just
Arteta,
had to fine tune it.
I'm asking him to do what Jurgen Klopp did, because when Jurgen Klopp took over from Liverpool over Brendan Rodgers in 2015, Liverpool were in a similar position to where Arsenal were when Arteta took over. And what Jurgen Klopp did, as well as contending like Arsenal have done, he picked up silverware and he got to Champions League finals. That's what I'm asking. Should Arteta be asked for doing that job as well?
Yeah, I don't think anyone is sitting here saying that Arteta is at Jurgen Klopp levels, though.
Okay.
And that's kind of the point here. Like, Arteta's a new manager, a young manager. People forget this is his first job. Yeah. He's got literally 5 years of managerial experience, and he's gone into one of the biggest clubs that were in a real bad state, and he's had to turn that around. He's learning every year. He's learning on the job. Arne Slot's won titles in the Netherlands. Jurgen Klopp had won things with Borussia Dortmund and competed at a really high level. I think sometimes Arteta gets an unfair rap. I think because of how well he's done, we look at him now and we go, put him in the bracket with the very elite. And maybe that's the case today, but that's not the case in terms of experience and back catalogue. So I'd love him to start delivering trophies, absolutely. And I said at the start of this season, he needed to. And if he doesn't, then people will dictate this season as a failure. But I find that hard to sort of to swallow, really, when I know where the club's come from.
Yes, it's a conversation that will rumble on and on and on. Guys, let us know down in the comments below who you think's done a better job so far. Mikel Arteta at Arsenal or Arne Slot at Liverpool.